Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
All right, guys. It is Thursday. Yesterday, quite the day. We will have a bit to talk about. Although, honestly, I kind of feel like that this just puts us even deeper in limbo. But let's see. I got a couple of things I got to look at. I am seeing some shifts here that were maybe a little unexpected. So let's probe the market here a little bit first. Before we do anything, we are going to get PPI here in about 2 minutes. The median expectation is spot 1% with core PPI being, they're expecting a spot 3 with a previous reading of spot 5. So just keep in mind that even though what we got from CPI yesterday was very good and the markets really loved it, CPI and PPI can diverge. So
1 minute remaining. I'll lead with US PPI.
And we have had a few instances where PPI like really surprised and moved the market. So okay.
10 seconds.
Okay, so there's a move. It looks like it's
Two
up.
spot 2%, 2% lower than forecast, 5%. Month over month, minus 0
Wow,
spot 2%.
US PPI month over month negative spot 2 when they were expecting a spot 1, and core PPI 0 when they were expecting a spot 3. So that is really good, actually.
Initial jobless claims at 242k, 242k, which is low. Which
the
is
dollar
forecast 225k.
taking a big hit there, and everything else jumping.
S&P 500 and weakness in the dollar here, following that cooler than expected PPI reads. Also seen in the core PPI reads as well.
Okay, so the high from the non-farms is at 20.5, and we kind of watch that.
2.5%.
Don't like the liquidity in the micros, so I'm not going to do anything.
Lower than forecast, 0.3%. Also noting those continued jobless claims at 1.82 million, 1.82 million, which is higher than forecast, 1.795 million. So again, it's a quick breakdown here as the employment situation in the jobless claims report shows a higher than
that's
expected
interesting.
reading
That slowed down. I mean, they might not be done,
PPI read showing,
but it definitely slowed there, and that was a lot faster than I thought it would be.
Leading to, again, some upside strength in the S&P 500 and some weakness in the dollar.
There's got to be some caveat in here because those numbers are way too weak. Like, I'm extremely surprised. I guess it fits in with what we've been seeing in new orders and everything, though, right?
I posted out the US PPI May report on the feed for anyone interested as well.
Okay, there's the high. There's the 20.5. That was the high from last Friday and the non-farms payroll. Before, you know, them getting smacked down and everything. But not a convincing bust there. So I was, you know, watching this, I'm kind of wondering, okay, could you see momentum step in? Well, I think that above 20.5 we could still see momentum step in, but they did not move up to it super aggressively. So you know, that volume, that might be well far in the future. It might not be right here. Well, okay, there's a few ticks. Maybe I'm overthinking it too much.
So the US PPI year.
I guess what I'm saying is I don't know if it
2.3%
makes sense for the
from
small
2.2%.
scalp, but it might make sense for the longer term play here. Okay, there's some iceberging at 21.5. Gonna tick up. Liquidity over here is a little bit better. I don't know if I want to hit 24.5, but we're below 25 now, which is kind of. There's actually enough volume going back and forth.
PPI rates unexpectedly slow down, as well as those jobless claims numbers hitting the highest since August.
So, and then I'm going to see if they can. Well, okay, so there's good volume on both sides there, 22.5.
So in the
they might come back to this level at like the scene of the crime, and then we can see what they do from there.
2.5%.
But so far, I'm kind of getting hints of trend day sort of behavior. I don't know. The thing is yesterday, you know, a lot of people were surprised by the Federal Reserve. Let's gain that out a little.
Block buy.
They're still struggling up here. I'm not seeing absorption against it, though. I'm not seeing absorption against it, but I am seeing like aggressive sell orders coming in, which is actually more concerning in my view.
Block sell.
Yeah, that's.
Block sell.
I don't know about that one. I'm gonna stay out of this. That's very
So Treasury 2
unusual. And a 13K iceberg there that they just blew through.
Yields.
Why am I not getting? I'm looking for the dot plot here. Back to it. So So we are currently 5 1/4 to 5 1/2. Right. So there's 5 1/4 to 5 1/2. So 4 members think that we will have 0 rate cuts. 5 to 5 1/4 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then 4.75 to 5 by the end of the year is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right. So here in July, 5 1/4, 5 1/2. Right. This is kind of weird. We're back. Can you hear me now? I don't know what happened. The OBS just like randomly stopped responding. It's kind of weird. And I checked like, oh, maybe like the video recording part like ran out of space, but I still got plenty of space. Hey, we have an auction today too, don't we? Yeah. 30-year bond auction. Williams after my session. Okay, so my bias here is long, but we've already moved a lot. What we've seen so far does not necessarily fit in with my bias, though. It could just be that was profit taking, like really aggressive profit taking. But the way that volume came in short there was very jarring to me. And when I see that sort of a thing, it really, really makes me hesitant to get involved. I'm glad that I didn't take any trades where we were, because we've, of course, come back quite a bit. In fact, we're at 426 now. When I was looking at it, was 425, right? So... let's wait for them to develop a bit of a liquidity hole. We might, it probably might even see something where they like develop a liquidity hole, move, do it again, kind of like they did yesterday. So let's wait a little bit. Maybe we could get an opportunity and we could go long again, especially if they come back to like 13.5. I think I could justify a long. Which NQ contract are we on? So in the equity indexes, you are still on June. So that's M, right? Did I get it? Did I remember it correctly that time? It's M? Yes, it is. It's M. Okay, so now that I'm a little bit more settled, I'm kind of thinking about when I woke up this morning, man, I just felt like a ton of bricks. You know, I felt so heavy. It was a little difficult to get out of bed. I think that, you know, yesterday my workout was a little bit lighter, but I went and I did like weighted farmer carry, and that might be why you know, that's a lot of stress all over, especially internal muscle, kind of more of the stabilization muscles and stuff. So maybe that's why it was kind of like, ugh. Other than that, though, I'm feeling kind of good. I wish that my arm wasn't so hard, because when I go out there and lift, I want to really go hard, you know? Actually, it's feeling a little bit better today. At least when it's fully extended, it's feeling better. There's still some pain, though. I was able to get through all my lifts yesterday. It hurt, but I was able to get through it. Okay, so next thing is I want to just come over and see what like the headlines and so forth are. Elon Musk says shareholders back his pay package and they haven't voted yet though, right? I think that it's likely that he will win, but you know, I wouldn't be voting yes, but you know, the people that own Tesla stock, they love him and they will vote yes, so it's gonna happen. Powell admits the Biden administration is overstating jobs. I wouldn't put it that way. I know the comment that they're talking about. I think they're reading too much into it. That is searching for a headline. Okay, producer price inflation cooler than expected after a softer than expected CPI yesterday sparked an all-out buying panic in stocks and bonds before Powell pissed in the punch bowl. This morning's PPI is expected to be mixed with a smaller month-over-month rise but higher year-over-year rise. The headline producer price index unexpectedly tumbled spot 2% month-over-month in May from a 0.5% month-over-month rise in April. That's the biggest decline since October of 2023. This left the year-over-year change in the headline index down a revised 2.3% in April to 2.2%. That is still the highest year-over-year since April 2023. Core PPI was unchanged month-over-month in May, and on a year-over-year basis, core PPI dropped from 2.5%. The decline in the headline index was driven by a plunge in energy and a small deflation month-over-month in services. Of course, we've seen these month-over-month declines in PPI before, and they have always been driven by energy costs. So once again, we only have to follow that. Well, and with all of that said, not really seeing anything too interesting in oil this morning. In fact, oil did not really respond too much to that PPI. Also, it looks like the equity indexes are about to head lower than where they were before the news. And the treasuries continue to slide. They found a little bit of support at 18, but they were not able to stay there for very long. So the selling is definitely still there. And I'm really not sure what to think about this. I do think that the inflation numbers that we get are really bullish. The question is just at like which point is it too bullish? I'm still kind of thinking cut in September, cut in November or December. Maybe December. Maybe not in November because that'd be too close to the election. Although I think that the meeting is after November, after the election, isn't it? Wow. Okay, so next thing is trading view here. Where are we at with GameStop, shall we? Interesting. Okay, so the big news yesterday, actually, let me pull up the picture here, was that we started to see some heavy activity yesterday in the strike price that Roaring Kitty was in. And so you can see here side bid. Remember that the exchanges report bills, not the market orders. So here's somebody getting filled on 200, 400 at a time on the bid. So that is the aggressor is selling, right? So if you're Roaring Kitty, you're going to have a really huge position. In order to get rid of that, you are going to have to market sell. So this is most likely Roaring Kitty. I mean, who else would have that many contracts to sell? This probably is Roaring Kitty selling. Now, I don't think that he sold everything, so we could see further selling this morning. But it could also be like maybe he's only selling part of his position so that he can convert them into long-term shares, perhaps. That could be that, that actually would make a little bit more sense to me. But again, we don't really know what he's thinking, so we probably shouldn't rely upon that. Okay, but while it was happening, especially, man, here going into the close, right? GameStop really took a dive. Now, when I go and I read the super stonk subreddits and so forth, I see like, oh man, it really is like, it's so wild for me to watch, because they whatever they put on there will be whatever cope you can possibly put in there to put a good spin on it and say that like everything's fine. Like, oh, maybe he was actually buying. Okay, maybe he was actually buying. Who was selling it to him? Right? Like, it's really silly. And I feel like it's such a, I mean, of all of the copes that I've seen, this one like sticks out to me the strongest, because it's basically like if Roaring Kitty completely dumps his options position, right, then this is basically like the last chance to get out before it like really falls apart. Because if he were to completely dump that position, I think that we would probably go back to below 20. Especially as everybody figures it out, you know? And it basically, what they're doing is they're putting misinformation out there to prevent people from getting out at like a key point. So this cope like really stands out to me. And here you can see that like in the overnight action, it hasn't done a thing. So I don't think that the retail traders are getting out. I think that the retail traders are like still all in on this, and that they don't not, you know, they're falling for the propaganda essentially. It really has become a cult, and this is just like it stands, because I don't think I'm like that. I think that I very much try to look at the data and understand what's going on, and I want to be one of the first people to jump ship if something's going wrong. That's kind of how I see myself. Now, that doesn't mean that I wouldn't have those biases, but it's crazy to me that when you look at these people that are buying in this stock, that the majority of them are just, you know, completely hypnotized by this, man. Completely hypnotized by this. Very little dissent. I see very little dissent in those communities. So, I guess we'll see what happens today. If Roaring Kitty sells some more, if like cracks start to show, I don't know. I'm always kind of looking forward to what they do on the open, but I'm kind of starting to feel that what happens on the open is kind of maybe a little bit random and not that important.
They say that they launched an attack with rockets and drones on 6 Israeli military targets.
I kind of hope that GameStop drops to practically zero. Is that mean? No. I mean, I think that it's only natural to have feelings of resentment and desire for revenge when if you've been participating in this stuff online and you've kind of been abused by the apes. I haven't really I've been trying to get the apes to like argue with me, and it's not happening. Like, if you go and you post something in Super Stonk, you probably just get banned, right? And when I like post anything about it on TikTok, it's just ignored. Well, I take that back. I got a couple, you know, when I made TikToks about it a few days ago, they did okay. But I really didn't get the kind of like unhinged replies that I thought I would. So it really seems to me like they're in their bubble and I've been separated from them, you know? Let's see, I don't know if, wait, what stuff matters anymore? What, the Roaring Kitty and the bubble, or just the GameStop issue in general? I don't know if the GameStop issue in general really matters to like the broader market or what we're doing, but it's still super interesting. Yeah, I don't, maybe, let's see here. Yeah, the last comment that I saw before you said that was back. Oh. Hezbollah launching drone attack largest since war began. Okay, so I totally get why you would say, I don't know if that stuff matters anymore. It really seems to me like this is just going to kind of go around in this circle where Israel will continue to try and dismantle Hamas. Hezbollah will continue to kind of shoot at Israel, and Israel, shoot back, but not really go full bore into it. There could be a point at which, if Israel feels like they've completely secured Rafah, which I don't think has happened yet, that they would maybe then turn around and go after Hezbollah. Possible. But then, during all of this, the Biden administration still is trying super hard to try and get some sort of a ceasefire deal sort of a thing. Like he has tasked Blinken with whatever it takes, whatever kind of coercion and deals that you have to make this happen sort of a thing. I really think that it's like if we get a ceasefire in the Middle East, that can be the thing that I can ride to re-election. I really think that that's what Joe Biden is thinking. And so because of that, I don't think that you can completely rule it out. There could be a shift, like real quick, where all of a sudden they do agree to a ceasefire and Israel pulls out of Gaza and all of that. So it seems like it doesn't matter right now. Well, it's not going to matter until it matters, It's not going to matter until it matters. And I don't know if I can predict when it's going to matter or if it's going to matter ever, Sure, just ignore the 40,000. Yeah, I totally will. Listen, I have absolutely no qualms about this. Terrorism in all of its forms are completely unacceptable. And I feel absolutely no remorse for any kind of collateral damage that happens as they attempt to dismantle terrorism. Those deaths are on the head of Hamas, and I think Israel should do whatever it takes.
At 5.33% for June the 12th.
I know it's people, they're dead. It's sad. It's not what we want to have happen. But when we're talking about the scale that we are in world politics and things like that, we kind of have to think on a different, we have to think on that scale. Yep, I am an asshat. Go ahead. Call me names. Call me a Zionist pig, whatever. I don't care. I really don't. Schwab hums ruining Thinkorswim. What do you mean by hums? Like the whole thing here is so take a step back. You got to disconnect yourself from the emotions of it, okay? It's kind of like you kind of have to think like a psychopath. I know that feels wrong, but you kind of have to think like a psychopath, because the reality is that people die, and people are going to continue to die over there. So what actually is truly the best thing long term? Because this is kind of like a trolley problem is going on over there is really what this is. This is like the trolley problem at a large scale. Okay. Hamas intentionally embeds itself within the civilian population so that there's no way that you can do anything to them without there being mass civilian casualties. That is like the entire basis of their strategy. Attack civilians, do terrorism, make the cost of retaliating against that terrorism as high as possible. That is 100% their strategy. You've got to understand that. That's what's going on. I'm not morally bankrupt. Hamas is, okay? Hamas are the absolute crazy, deranged, evil people that are placing us all in this situation where they continue to kill people And if you do anything about it, there's going to be civilian casualties, and it's unpleasant. Okay, but the reality is that Hamas crossed the border and killed, hundreds of people, and they would have killed more if they could. And if you continue to allow Hamas to be around, they will continue to do everything that they can to kill as many Israelis as possible. And so I think that the long-term consequences here are that if you allow Hamas to remain around, more people will die. So you are saving lives by eliminating Hamas now. You're saving lives by eliminating Hamas now. Straight up. So I know that it's unpleasant, but you got to look at the bigger picture here, man. I don't turn around and I say you're morally bankrupt. No, I get it that you have sympathy for the people that are dying right now. That just means that you're easily manipulated. Doesn't make you morally bankrupt, right? No, it doesn't. Well, let's take a step back. Who is the aggressor here? Hamas only exists as a reaction to aggression and colonization. That's complete nonsense. Okay. Hamas exists as a reaction to anti-Semitism. They are anti-Semitists. If Hamas put their weapons down today, it would be done. It would be over. And everybody would live in peace, and everybody in the Gaza Strip would be happy. Okay? If Hamas laid their weapons down, stopped doing everything, like, this is a crazy thing about it, right? Is that Israel, they used to occupy the Gaza Strip. They completely pulled out so that, because everybody's saying, well, you're occupying the place. So, okay, we're going to pull out. We're going to let those people govern themselves, and we'll see where they go. And what did they do? They put every tiny little bit of effort that they had into creating weapons to destroy Israel. Okay? So there's a certain point at which you kind of have to sit here and be like, does it really fucking matter anymore? Like, was there, did Israel do things in the past that they shouldn't have done, or that were, did they kill Palestinians when they shouldn't have, or kicked Palestinians out of homes and things like that in the past? There was some of that on both sides. There absolutely was. But here's the thing, is that once you embrace terrorism, that is the line. That is the line. There is absolutely nothing. There is no injustice, no act that can ever justify responding with terrorism. Ever. Nothing. Nada. Okay? You're the nut job. If you support terrorism in any form, you are the nut job. You have a worldview that is demented. You have been warped by propaganda, and I don't care what you think. You know what I mean? I just because there's no, like, I don't care if it is a response to, it doesn't matter. It doesn't justify terrorism. There's absolutely nothing that you could ever do to me that would ever cause me to respond with terrorism. Okay? You kill my family, rape them, do all of these things. I'm not going to turn around and be like, I'm going to go and start bombing civilians because I'm pissed about it. I will never do it. Terrorism is unacceptable. And once you embrace terrorism, nothing else matters. I think that once you embrace terrorism, you should be eradicated, and that's the end of it. And I don't care what happened before that. Yeah, tell that to the girl who was raped and murdered and then paraded through their roads. Paul, it really is kind of scary, isn't it? How quickly they went from, okay, this is like the most awful, graphic, atrocious act of genocide since the Holocaust, and all of the videos that were put out that day of them literally raping and killing people in some of the most sadistic ways. just absolutely
Russian
awful
energy
stuff.
minister says Russia
The
will
video
solve
was
the
all
oil
out there, and we didn't even
issue
see some
in
of the
June.
worst video, but the Israeli media has shown it to the media. You can go and find it now. And there was these people here in the West that immediately started to support Hamas. Like that day, there was people out protesting, marching in support of Hamas. It's absolutely mind-boggling how far these people have gone. But you know, let's understand how it happens. Your brain, frontal part of your lobe, is like a machine learning network. And everything that you see, everything that's going on is like training data. And then the brain cells in your brain, they configure themselves and everything based on the data that they're getting to be able to interpret that data. And there are people in Western society that have been consuming nothing but trash for the last 20 years that has completely programmed them to basically go against their own best interests and the best interests of their society and their people, to support the causes of literally terrorists. They've basically been brainwashed. They've been programmed to support terrorism, and it's gotten to the point now where they literally feel like, I can't imagine feeling comfortable enough to go out and publicly protest in support of terrorists, and then on top of that to like attack Jews. That's the thing that's really startling to me, is the abuse on these campuses that Jewish students have suffered in those, you know, people just outright anti-Semitism. It's crazy, especially after 4 years of, there's, you know, but the right are Nazis and all of this kind of nonsense, you know, they're violent, etc., etc. They're gonna go and kill all of the gays, right? And then
Russia say they are to compensate
as soon as
overproduction.
something blows up in Israel, they start attacking Jews. It's just wild, you know. Go to Israel as a Mormon. Oh, I'm sure that if I went to, you know, the hyper traditional Jews are total assholes. I've seen it. At least in Israel. I don't think that there's very many of those people in the United States. But problem is that most of the leaders on both sides are mentally ill. I don't know. I don't think that can't even remember his name. The president of Israel is mentally ill. I think that given this situation, that they really have no choice but to eliminate Hamas. I mean, that's really the long and short of it. I think that any kind of interpretation of the or resolution of the situation that doesn't involve Hamas being completely eliminated as an entity is unacceptable. It's absolutely it just shows to me this is the Biden administration's biggest failure, is not seeing this and essentially working to try and save Hamas. Just like, wow, okay. So no, I don't support genocide, but I do support eliminating terrorism. I support eliminating terrorism. When there's terrorism, you root it out and you destroy it. I mean, a lot of Palestinians are going to die through this, but it's not going to be a complete genocide, right? They will still be there. They'll still be in the Gaza Strip. I hope someday that we just resolve this, that Hamas goes away, that we get more moderate people in charge in the Gaza Strip, and that 10, 20 years from now that we can just be sipping on drinks on the side of the Mediterranean Sea in Gaza. I could totally see, well, okay, trying to build what do you call it? Like a dock, like a makeshift dock there was kind of a dumb idea. But I think it could make a good resort town. Am I wrong? I've never been there. Just from what I've seen, it seems like you could make a good resort there. And there's the money to develop it. Like, this, the crazy thing is the amount of money that's gone into Gaza and got wasted on trying to build, you know, weapons instead of making, with the amount of money investment that went in there, that place could have been a paradise. It can still be a paradise. But first they have to disavow terrorism. And will they ever do that? I don't know. I support eliminating occupiers. This whole world, so this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? Is that they're trying to program the American public to see everything through the lens of occupiers versus indigenous people, oppressor versus oppressed. This is why the Israel situation is kind of the most interesting one, because I think that whole kind of worldview kind of falls apart. But at the same time, I'm telling you, this whole time when it's been like Black Lives Matters and all of, you know, Occupy Wall Street and all of those sorts of things, it's really at the heart of it, it's been support of the Palestinians, and all of that ideology has kind of been set to program people so that they would support the Palestinian people. It is. So those things, they really don't matter. They really don't. Like seriously, there's people there. Like this is the thing. Okay? Like forget the historical arguments for a second, okay? Tel Aviv is a city. The Palestinians did not build Tel Aviv, okay? That's all Israel's thing. A lot of people live there. They're not going anywhere. You have to deal with the current reality. So the current reality is that there are people already living there, and we have to be able to deal with and get along with the people that are already there. And the other reality is that there are people that are using terrorism, and that needs to stop. Go live with your Zionist friends? Okay. You're right. Tel Aviv never existed before 1940. They built it. It's relatively recent. They built a huge city in the space of like what? 50 to 80 years? Huge city. It's there. Do you really want just everybody that lives in Tel Aviv to just go? Because they're quote unquote occupiers? Silly. Stupid. Yes? You're dumb. I'm sorry. This is just stupid. It's not gonna happen. By the way, Treasury's really starting to go sideways here. How long has it been? 10, 20, so it's been about 30 minutes. It's been about 30 minutes to 17. So, you know, I was looking for a buy. I thought, well, maybe if they could get down to 13, that would be really good. But it's just kind of going sideways. I don't know if the potential upside from here is very good. I'm a little mixed, because I feel like if I'm going to get in, that it really should be in this area between 17 and 18. And I think I'm going to miss it because I just don't really see the reward in it up here. I'm concerned about 20.5 again and the aggressive selling that we saw there. So, but we are getting a little bit of a jump. I got to tell you, man, like with the whole occupier, you know, sort of a thing, because this is relevant to the United States. It really is. Like, you're bringing a lot of immigrants in, okay? Once the immigrants are here, it's hard to get rid of them. It's kind of, in fact, I would dare say it's impossible without doing immoral things. So if you are, you know, concerned about the area that you live being changed, from occupiers, it is in your best interest to prevent them from coming in the first place. Because once they're there, you've got the problem. And it doesn't go away. I've never seen it, you know. Is there a situation in history where, you know, a group of people moved in and settled an area in direct defiance of the people that already lived there, and they tried to change the area and or possibly even start to, you know, oppress the indigenous people that already lived there, okay? And then the indigenous people fight back and reverse that and get rid of them? It's never. I don't think it's ever happened. I don't think it's ever happened. Once they're there, it's already over. The good thing that here in the United States, at least, that the people that we're importing right now are not so far. You know, a lot of people say, well, they don't necessarily share our values, but I think that most South American immigrants actually they do. So I think it will probably be okay, but it will change the character of the country, and it's probably already too late to do anything about it. Okay, but the point was with Israel, like they're there, they're not going away. It is what it is. And trying this idea that, like, well, we owned the land before, and so we should be able to own the land, and that they should have to leave and go away is just not a realistic solution to things, man. And I think that you're in abject denial of reality if you think that that's a reasonable solution. The only issue is that it's not just from South American people, it's coming from all over the world through the southern border. Well, that's true, but I don't think that it's that amount of people is large enough that, you know, it's going to change that. So, like, I think that Republicans are concerned that, like, okay, if you import enough third world Muslims, that they're going to ditch the Constitution and establish an Islamic caliphate in the United States. You know, and there are people in the Islamic world that want that to happen. And there certainly should be some concerns about people that are coming over here illegally that might be terrorists and things like that. But I think that that's kind of a short-term temporary concern that once you get a reasonable border policy in place will resolve itself. The demographic change towards a more Latino population in the United States, though, that is irreversible. That is irreversible. Yeah, create a caliphate and impose Sharia law. This is not going to happen. We're not anywhere close to that happening. It's you know, when there's a contradiction of this nature, it's always interesting to see the way that people react to it, right? But you're right. Okay, so it's bad when Israelis come and settle in Jerusalem, but it's okay when South Americans immigrate to the United States and settle in the United States. Like, if one is bad or one is okay, shouldn't they both be bad or both be okay? I say that, hey, if you like the place that you live and you want it to stay the same, it's probably in your best interest to put controls on who comes to that place. Okay? But once they've come, whether it's a good or a bad thing doesn't matter anymore, because it's already happened. At that point, it's the reality, and that reality doesn't reverse itself. So to come in and to say, we should do X thing because this injustice happened in the past is absolutely insane. Especially when you say the X thing that you should do is react with terrorism. Oh my gosh, dude, how dumb are you? Europeans tend not to shoot back. Well, but you know, it's interesting to watch because back in like what, the 1400s or whatever, you know, the Europeans were very aware of the Islamic world intent to conquer them, and they fought back against it. And I think generally they were able to preserve European society, right? And then since that time, you know, there's been a lot of mixing. There's been a lot of mixing, and it's been okay. Like in the United States, we've had a lot of immigration. We had an immigration wave from many different mostly European countries, right? But now more recent South American countries. And it's been okay. And in, you know, many respects, the United States has benefited from it, right? And so we've kind of gotten into this position in the Western world where it's like, yes, everybody that can come, it's great. It's fine. Everybody's fine, right? But that's because we haven't been in this situation where you're talking about a culture that's like diametrically opposed to yours, right? And then on top of that, you put all of the globalist and business incentives to import labor and keep labor cheap. It's a pretty nasty situation. I'm going to be interested to see now that the Europeans are starting to turn a little bit more right, or right wing rather, because they're not happy with the way that things are going right now with the importation of immigrants that they've had so far, where that actually goes. Because what I see in the history is like immigration will be an issue, and a lot of people will be like, you know, we shouldn't be having this, yada yada yada, and eventually those guys win, and like the immigration in general gets shut down and controlled, right? And then people forget about it, and they open things back up, and it becomes an issue again. That's what happened in the United States. Right, was like around immigration was a big thing, right? And then around World War II, they shut things down, and they had like a long law that basically made it so that it was very difficult to immigrate to the United States. And then in like the 70s, 80s, they opened things back up, and it became an issue again. But again, I just find it interesting because part of what I'm saying here about this issue is like,
in mind now, in 10 minutes time at 9:30.
Forget for a second about what you think is right or wrong, or what you do or do not want to happen, and just look at the reality. What tends to happen? What tends to be the effects of this? Right? And when I start to say that, like, look at the way that people react about it. It's kind of funny because I'm kind of saying like, okay, like let's just understand this system and how it works and how it affects you. But you don't want to hear that, do you? You want to hear me say we should or we shouldn't have the immigration. Well, I don't think that we should. I think that we should shut the border down right now and enforce our rules. Okay, we need to reform the immigration system, but we should also, you know, be enforcing the rules that we have. Okay, that's what I personally believe. Okay, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as to what's going to happen, because you can kind of almost see what's going to happen because it always goes that way. Right? What's going to happen is the demographics of the United States is going to change. And probably in a way that is a little bit more favorable to socialism. Yeah, probably. But, you know, groups, attitudes and stuff will change over time. I don't know if that's like a guaranteed thing. Okay. So back to Israel. Again, you got to forget about what you thought was wrong, right or wrong in the past, and what you do or don't want to have happen right now. Because it sounds to me like some of you think that the Israelis should just all leave. That it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Look at the reality of the world. Look at the reality first of what is and is not like viable and realistic solutions to things, and then maybe make some, you can kind of discuss like what should we do in this situation, right? So the reality is that Jews are in Israel and they're not going anywhere, not without genocide. Okay, and it's the same thing. There's Palestinians there. They're not going anywhere without genocide. I know there maybe there could be some situation where you could make some deal and they would like immigrate to another country, but I don't think at this point that that's realistic, and I don't think that that would really be a moral solution anyways. This is kind of like, Trail of Tears sort of stuff, or like, when India was created and all of the Muslims were kicked out into Pakistan. It's, that's weren't necessarily good things, okay? But they're there. Then the other side of it is that there are people that are completely dedicated to terrorism. So what are you going to do about it? You can't get all of the Israelis to leave. You can't. You have to convince them to drop the terrorism. It's the only way. It's the only way. And if you somehow are able to broker some sort of ceasefire deal, all that means is that we get to play out this whole sad game again in 10 years. And with probably bigger death tolls. Let's end it now. The moral thing is, end it now. Not all Israelis, just the ones that live on Palestinian land. Okay, so one of the things that's going on right now is that there are some settlers that are settling in areas that are considered Palestinian lands. I don't think that everything that's going on over there is necessarily moral. Okay, sure. They shouldn't be opening new settlements. I don't think. I am kind of like, well, like if they're building a new community in the middle of nowhere, then why not? But if it's Palestinian land, like, because we have borders, if it's Palestinian, that shouldn't be allowed. Shouldn't. But again, like that doesn't mean that terrorism is okay, right? That's kind of a separate thing, right? To the issue at hand, which is that there's terrorism being perpetrated against the Israeli people, and
looking at the market on open imbalance. So S&P 500
end the terrorism, destroy Hamas, then we can kind of talk about the settlements.
Buy side, the Dow 30,
and that's going to be a really difficult problem to solve because the ruling party in power in Israel does want the settlements. They are like really out there on that issue. But, that's a place where I think that diplomatic pressure from the United States and so forth would go a long way. But only if you had the goodwill that, Israelis are safe. I think one of the things that so going back to this thing where you say give it 3 decades, you'll see changes in the United States. I think that people underestimate the power of systems. That's like really the long and short of it, is that when you put people are very adaptable, and you put them in a system and they will figure out the optimal behavior within that system and go towards it. And the reason why the United States has been able to have huge waves of immigration in the past and still be okay as a country is because of the system that we have, the whole thing, the Constitution and everything, you know, is extremely resilient and extremely effective. And it basically puts people into, when they come here, that system encourages them to become Americans. Right? So when it comes to people from South America immigrating to the United States, I think that the United States can absorb them just like past immigration waves and be fine. Yeah, the what do we say? Not, I wouldn't say racial, but what's kind of the next level down. Anyways, the demographics of the United States will change, yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that like the country's gonna fall apart because we had too many Mexican immigrants. No. Now the problem is that Islam is a system too. I'm not sure that the American system can deal with the Islam system. And if we were getting mass immigration wave of Muslim immigration, I'm a little concerned. But that's not what's happening. Watching people argue this stuff is fascinating. Yeah. Well, I don't know how fascinating it is to watch me because I'm just like ADHD all over the place responding to every question, right? And trying to use the systems that I have and the knowledge that I have to come up with reasonable answers to things. But you are right, like what the questions that people ask and the way that they respond to certain arguments is fascinating. Because like, again, most people don't sit down and the way that I approach the world is weird, right? Most people don't sit down and say, okay, what is the system that is in place and what are, the mathematical properties of that system that will lead to certain outcomes, and based on that system, what are the optimal decisions that we can make? And then let's try and take that model that we have and apply it to certain situations and see where we get. That's not the way that people work, right? The way that people work is the front part of your brain is like a machine learning network, and it's constantly ingesting information. And that neural network, those cells are repositioning themselves and changing connections and so forth based on the information that's being input into it. And then when they come into a situation, it's just in and out. They put that piece of information into that neural network and they spit out the response. And they don't even necessarily understand how they came to that response. And so that's how you get into these certain situations with, like,
for us to use quantitative,
I'll make an argument and then you'll get a comment that seems to be like way left field, like related, but this is like, because it's really this deep-seated emotional opinion about something that has been embedded into the neural network, and then in that situation it comes out. It's just like hallucinations in ChatGPT, or like, actually, so have you heard this thing that I saw this article yesterday? There's a street term for it now. We don't say that the AI is hallucinating, we say it's tripping. You're tripping. You're not actually thinking this through logically. You're just spitting out to me instinctually what your neural network is programmed to say. Let's see here. You can get past the land issue with it, but you'll never get past the Jew-Muslim part of it. It's just aren't going to make those people like each other no matter what you do. The entire debate is just moral grandstanding, whose dead children matter more. I agree with that. All of them hate each other on both sides. I agree. I still think that if you didn't have Hamas there, these terrorists, okay, and You didn't have Iran funding terrorism over there. I don't think that you're ever going to get them to like each other, but I think that they could at least get along enough that, you know, we wouldn't have constant carnage over there. Yeah, typical American, who cares if I take that and crap. It is, you know, it is weird because here again, it's the same thing. It's like, what is the neural network of these people actually been programmed to do? It's to care about whether they're white or not. And basically, I would say that it's been programmed to be anti-white. It really is, because you listen to me talking about it. I haven't really mentioned anything about immigrants are mostly brown. Like, again, I keep saying, well, I think you are going to see the demographics of the United States change, but I don't think that that's necessarily going to change the nature, the character of America, because the American system is so strong, those people will integrate. Their race, it doesn't matter. What matters is like their underlying beliefs and their ability to integrate. And I think that most South Americans can. The funny thing is, Jews and Muslims tend to get along in America. That and non-Americans cannot comprehend how big our country is, especially. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, the thing that we Americans don't kind of forget is that a country in Europe is really more equivalent to a state in the United States. Like, in terms of size and the difference between the different countries and things. And you know, a lot of people don't realize that. It's the United States, right? That means that every one of those states should really be thought of on the same level as a country in Europe. For real, like half of Europe is New York City and Chicago. Yeah, but the other thing that is, you know, okay, so let me shift our window here a little bit now. Let's look at a different cultural issue here. Okay, the biggest dichotomies that I see in the world today is not between white people and black people, or, you know, all of these different kinds of ideologies that everybody focuses on. No, it's between people who benefit from globalism and suffer from globalism. That's the biggest dichotomy. That is the biggest political issue of the day. The people in charge, they don't want you to see that, because once everybody starts to realize that the real battle is globalism versus localism, let's call it, or the country versus the cities. Like, once everybody figures that game out, then it kind of ends for the globalists, right? So they don't want you to figure that out. But it's the strongest, and really, if you think about mercantilism, this has kind of always been the game, and has kind of always been the source of some of the largest conflicts in the last 200 years. Is, you know, like the Vietnam War was absolutely 100% this. You had these large powers that basically had colonies in Vietnam. So Vietnam was the place where the resources and the food was being grown, and then it was being sent back to the owning countries where the manufacturing and the political power was held. And what happened in Vietnam was basically the farmers decided to rebel and beat the European powers. It was just that it just so happened that the people that won were communists, and then started to try and take over the rest of Vietnam, and then that's how we got the Vietnam War, and the United States got involved, right, to try and stop communism. But it's really that Actually, the word that I like to use is the periphery, right? Vietnam was the periphery versus core, where the manufacturing is, right? So, what is Europe? What is Europe? Europe is almost entirely core, like overwhelmingly. The amount of like rural farming communities sort of thing, they exist in Europe. They absolutely do, and they've gained some political power recently too, especially in the Netherlands, right? But it's not nearly what it is in the United States, right? And that's the cause of a significant part of the cultural differences between the United States and Europe, is that in Europe, the rural community is so small to be as almost insignificant for the most part, unless they really all get together and are focused on one issue, which is what's happening right now. Whereas in the United States, it's really 50-50. 50% of people live in the city and 50% of the people live in kind of more rural or suburban communities. Have you been to East? Well, but I'm not talking about Eastern Europe. In my mind, that's a funny comment. You know, I think that you just made a comment that really hit at the heart of the flaw in the model that I'm using here, right? Because the model that I'm using here to when I say Europe, like the border basically ends at Germany, and right. I'm not even sure if in my model of Europe that it includes Greece. Nah, I think that my model of Europe is like Spain, France, Germany, Italy, the UK, and Sweden and Norway and Denmark. But that the rest of that is Eastern Europe. It's a completely different game, right? Because then, yes, like Ukraine is periphery. Ukraine is the rural area. Yes. That's where all the food gets grown. And what do you know? Why is it that the wars always seem to happen in the periphery countries? If there was a United States Civil War, I think that all of the war would happen in where I live, for one thing, because of water rights, but mostly I think that it would be in the Midwest. It would be like Ohio, Indiana, Chicago. American food, we can agree, is poison. We eat too many chemicals. Okay. I don't know if I should fight my ADHD tendency to like completely segue into a different issue and talk about that or not. You know what? The issue is that I know a thing or two about nutrition and what you eat and things like that, but I think that I only know enough to be aware of how little I really know. I really wish that I could go and like hire a chef, and that person would just their only job would be to feed us, and they would pick the things, and their concern would be, you know, reducing the amount of chemicals that we have and eating the healthiest things and all of that. And I just have to eat it, and you know, if I don't like it, I'm just gonna eat it anyways. I wish I could do that because I don't have the time and energy to spend on that. I can't be an expert in finance and politics and also be an expert in nutrition, right? So I have to, I outsource it. Like I know a lot about fitness and exercise because of Olympic weightlifting, but I outsource it, right? I have a coach, and the coach gives me the program, and I just do what the coach says, right? I just had a cinnamon bagel that was probably at least 10% chemicals used to clean floors. Oh, bagels are super bad. Don't eat bagels. I guess if you are extremely active and you are burning a lot of calories a day, and you need the carbs for the calories, then like a whole wheat bagel makes sense. When I am like really feeling like low on energy and like I can't handle my workouts, and then I will turn to the whole wheat bagel. Okay. But like a regular bagel, those are so awful for you. Because it is just packed, concentrated, high availability carbs, and it spikes your blood sugar so much, and you're spiking that blood sugar like early in the day. So regularly eating bagels is really going to push you towards insulin resistance. Like basically the cells start to say, oh, you know what? I know there's a lot of sugar in the blood and everything, but and there's insulin and everything, but I don't think that we actually need to do anything. There's insulin there all the time. And then your cells become insulin resistant. And that's when you get fat and it becomes impossible to get rid of the fat. Yes, bagels. And then it's a cinnamon bagel. Well, cinnamon is better because I think I saw a study that suggested that cinnamon improves your insulin response. So I don't know. I'll be walking 2 miles. Hey, that's pretty good. Maybe you'll be okay. I'll be walking 2 miles in an hour, 2 or 3 hours after that, and 2 or 3 hours after that, I'll be fine. What are you doing where you're going to be walking that much? I tell you what, when I was a missionary,
The Nasdaq hits an intraday
holy
record
crap,
high.
the news squawk just blasted my ear out. Good grief. When I was a missionary, we would ride our bikes everywhere, right? And be like, okay, that's like 2 or 3 miles away or whatever. Okay, no big deal. And that's like a 5 or 10 minute bike ride. No big deal, right? And then one time in the middle of the winter, our bikes got stolen. And so we had to walk everywhere. And, somewhere that was even 2 or 3 miles away, that's like a 30 to 40 minute walk sometimes, depending on hills and all of these other sorts of things. Like 5 miles, forget about it. That's like your whole afternoon, man. Anyone still holding longs? Longs in what? By the way, welcome back, Hal. So the treasuries kind of fell out there from that 16.5 area, but I could potentially just read that as oscillation around the mean. I'm kind of looking at this like, okay, so we're coming up on 8 o'clock. We are getting close to like my cost basis, so I could maybe go long. I don't know if I really feel super what is the word, confident? Yeah, because at this point it kind of looks like it's just oscillating. Like, do I think that a large meta order long is going to come in for another leg and something? Like, it's been too long, so I don't think that we have a trade today, which is really disappointing because I really thought that I would maybe get one.
Block sell.
Oh, it was a big sell. There's the other thing is that the big sells still seem to be on the sell side, which is You were long on UB, but not anymore. Oh, well, good. Yeah. So I was, my thinking of the flows was it was going to be long. Have we seen evidence of that yet? No. I suppose that if we come down to 13 and then I start to see that kind of like slow and consistent buying sort of imbalance, maybe I could still do it. It's still possible, but I'm really starting to doubt that scenario. It's been too long. I think that you would have already seen it. And instead, there's kind of some aggressive selling that has me spooked. Well, GameStop has been incredibly tight and not really doing anything. Don't they have a shareholder conference today or something? Let's see if I can get yeah, mark your calendars for June 13th. Investors will be asked to vote on several resolutions. Time, but what? $10 a.m. Central. Oh. So basically when we end the stream. So GameStop might be just kind of go nowhere until that. I kind of suspect what's going to happen though is that there won't be really anything interesting in the annual meeting, and then people will start selling after that. Well, let's see. Let's see. You never know. You never know. Could just completely take off again. I kind of wonder, by the way, like what if Citron had not covered 2 days ago? What if they were still short right now? And we never had that up. But then Roaring Kitty still sold. And where we would be at? Yeah, like... This is worth thinking about because, like, Citron was, like, a big buyer. Right? Now that they're not there anymore, who's to buy, right? You have to think about the future buyers. And you sold 14.5? Okay. We are right at the inventory cost basis right now, by the way. Right? Because the play has been, as of late, right? You get a huge takeoff, wait for it to come back to that cost basis and watch it bounce. Citron AUM is 21 million. Really? Well, that's nothing. Yeah, they probably got way more attention than they deserve, right? But like that's the whole thing though, man. Okay. That right there was pretty positive that was Citron buying. Okay? So if a 20 million fund can cause that much buying, like that just kind of tells you how easy it is to move this thing. We kind of tried calculating it the other day, but I think that GameStop is just in such an unhinged market condition that those models don't work. Right. There's a square root law of meta order impact, and it kind of goes like this. And then when the meta order ends, there will be a short-term regime change, which tends to be pretty long. It's like 2.5 times the initial buy, right? Okay. So you can look at how many shares they're buying, and you can kind of game out what their impact is going to be. But there is a certain amount, right, where all of a sudden it goes like this. If the size keeps getting bigger than that, the market goes unhinged. And basically what happens is that the people that are smart, that are trying to execute, they get to right before that point, and then they stop. Because if they keep buying through here, then it's just going to increase their cost basis like a ton. And they don't want that. So what do? They back off. They do another leg later. The market is basically in this all the time now, and so you can't really make very good predictions about how far it will move. Roaring Kitty sold to the sheep who followed him. He sold some of it yesterday, yes. The decline in GameStop yesterday appears to be that Roaring Kitty sold some of his calls. It looks to me, I don't know exactly how you game this out, but based on like the changes in open interest and so forth that we've seen. Actually, let's go back and see if I've got updated numbers on that on Reddit. But it looked to me like it was about 40 to 50,000 of those calls got taken off, but not the whole thing. So it is unclear if he will continue selling or not. He could have just been selling some of those to raise cash so that he could execute another portion of them or something like that, right? Citron has a big mouth. I don't see them shorting more than 5 million worth of shares. Yum. Well, keep in mind that the way that a long short fund works is that they use leverage for starters. So while they only have 20 million under management, the size that they're actually, or like the position that they're actually taking in GameStop is going to be much, much larger than that. I don't know if 5 million is like a realistic estimate or not, but I'm just saying it, 5 million shares can move GameStop really far. This is the thing. I gotta tell you, I hope those of you that have been watching the stream for a long time and understand what I've been saying about the elastic market and all of that, but maybe you're like, oh, I'm not sure I completely understand why Seth thinks that markets being inelastic is such a big deal. If anything kind of shows you why it matters, look at GameStop. Everybody has impact. Everybody has impact. And when everybody has impact, it results in chaos. And so this whole thing of like trying to predict based on these small short-term patterns what's going to happen is really kind of silly, because there's thousands of people out there that could on their own affect the stock at any time, regardless of what your indicators and crap say, right? So in that situation, how do you make money? The only way that you can is if you know that one of those people out there is going to do something. There are times when you can guess that, though. You know how their strategy works and whatnot. How much leverage? Well, so if they were just only buying stocks, then you can only get 2-to-1 leverage, right? But with options and things like that, you can get it a lot more than that. I don't know. So here's a thought. Was this? Oh no, that was Monday. Yeah, here we are, Friday. Okay, so. Oh man, you really have to zoom out, don't you? Okay. This right here was selling 75 million. So what does that make this? I don't know. Did they have the equivalent of 75 million shares or something that they had to buy? Possible. Possible. But again, the way that I would try and calculate this sort of a thing is y times the volatility times the square root of the size of the meta order over v. But I'm not sure if that's applicable right now. Your Discord alerts in the background keep catching. Am I getting Discord alerts? I didn't even hear that. Octavius scratched that. That's okay. I'm feeling a little apprehensive because it is kind of like, okay, they are starting to bounce right where I expected them. I still don't like the trade though. No, I still don't like it. I'm too concerned about, instead of bouncing, it just goes sideways here. Maybe that's good risk reward to go long, but I don't like it. It's a little not to mention that there's still like those block cells and everything have been really concerning to me. Let's see here. With those spreads on options, ain't no way Andrew left shorted via options. I mean, didn't he lose like 100% last time he shorted GameStop? Oh yeah, dude, like it was crazy. Sure. I don't know. The thing it's kind of, I don't know how big their position was, so I don't know if it's even worth discussing. But the thing that I thought was interesting was kind of like the self-righteousness and the salt in their tweet when they admitted that they exited. I just can't believe that you would allow yourself to get burned by that same situation twice in a row, right? I mean, if you waited until it was like at 60 to short, then hey, good for you. They didn't say if they made or lost money. Maybe they made money on it, but I'm still kind of like, who would really expose themselves in that way against a meme stock? It's dumb. Smart people are not always who's smart though. Citron. Well, I don't know how smart they are, but I think it comes back to here again, the markets are inelastic, and there's a lot of people at even the biggest funds. They don't understand this. The people, the cultists, the GameStop cultists, they definitely don't seem to understand this, because there's been, all of these people saying, well, there was this much volume on this day and it moved the AFAR, but then there was this much volume on this day and it didn't move as much. Why is that? They don't understand the square root law and all of these sorts of things. So it's, anyways. Now, GameStop did take a little bit of a dive here, but probably, so the shareholder meeting is in an hour, so might see them go sideways for the next hour, and then after that, might get more interesting. Yeah, who knows? I just think that if I was a short seller, that I would not want to be anywhere near any of the meme stocks. Like, the risk reward in them is just not very good for you. Like short selling on a company like that, it was always kind of an asymmetrical risk sort of thing where, like, most likely you do make money, but if you don't, you're gonna get your butt handed to you, right? The meme stocks, with the participation of the retail traders, just kind of reduces your probability of winning and increases your loss when you do lose. So it's just like not worth even touching them. But they haven't learned, I guess. and taking it from the tweet, they still don't. Like the tweet is like, well, clearly this isn't being moved by fundamentals. Like, okay, man, you don't realize that nothing moves on fundamentals. It's all orders. Maybe those orders are being submitted by people that understand fundamentals, but not necessarily. All right. Okay, so I forgot what I was doing. We're asking about how much of the options. Okay, so this is on Superstonk. They said open interest today on that strike is 111, down from 169, meaning that DFV, or Roaring Kitty, did trim his position with a 58k difference. That means that he still holds over half of his options position. Could he have freed up capital to exercise the rest? Only time will tell. I am always hopeful and still believe in blah, 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 blah. I don't know about that one. So if let's say that DFV did sell some of his calls, but he did so that to raise the capital to execute the other half of them, which let's just say that it was 60 million. I don't think that you have that much, right? If I 60,000 times what are we at right now? Well, times $20 actually, right? So 1,200,000, and would selling those, let's see here, on the other half, 60,000 times 100 times how much do you think he made? Well, he was 67 was his cost basis, and prices that he was getting was 755 69. So times 0.2 times 0.23, 1 million. So it probably was enough to execute. But then what would happen, presumably? Well, there's two scenarios. What's probably going to happen is because these firms, they immediately hedge the delta. So they will just take the shares that they own and they'll give them to Roaring Kitty. Cool. But the GameStop people, the cultists, they think that these guys that are doing the options, that they don't own the shares and that they would need to go out and buy them, so that you would get a ramp up because of that. But if he does execute them and they're already hedged and that happens, I believe your audience dropped since, well, maybe. But I think that my audience has dropped because it's summertime. The numbers that we're seeing are pretty typical for summer. He would, what was I saying? So they sell the shares to him. Now he owns a bunch of shares at a cost basis of 20. I don't know if you want to increase your cost basis that much for it, right? Because I think you kind of end up holding the bag at that point. But I do think, I can't read minds, so I'm just guessing and kind of going with my gut about what I think he intends. I think that he does want to execute them, though. I think he believes in the whole like shorts haven't covered kind of nonsense, and that he would convert the rest of his calls. Let's see, and maybe that already happened. Well, I don't know how you would see that though. From what I remember, the traders took August off, not the whole, right? I tell you what, Lucas, every time that we have this kind of conversation, it's really weird to me because you always seem to remember it differently from me. And we'll have this conversation and then have it again in a year, and you still remember it differently from me, even when we were like, well, why is it getting slow now? Well, because it's summer. I don't remember that. Okay, then we go next year. Like, what was it? From Memorial Day to Labor Day, and you kind of have to build in a little bit of wiggle room because there's the non-farms there, right? But between Labor Day and Memorial Day, there is less activity in the markets. And our audience is usually less. Yep, only us nerds remain. Yeah. Oh, I do remember a few weeks ago, because it felt like that the summer action was coming in a little bit early. That, you know, they were kind of like holding off. And of course, they knew that there was this huge slew of data that we got this week as well. So they were kind of holding off for that. that's kind of why I'm a little bit sanguine about the summer, because it kind of seems to me, based on interest rates, that we're kind of like in a little bit of a limbo, like wait and see what happens in September sort of a thing. And I don't know if the treasuries really have a whole lot of room to move around from here. And then we're already getting the summer action sort of a stuff. So I don't think that the opportunities for us this summer are going to be very good. There's always those times. I think it was 2019 when like the summer ended up being really active and surprising us. So I think more generally with the stream though, I think that, okay, so I would say that we have definitely had times where we've had a higher audience, right? Like going into the first GameStop round, we were starting to get into like 50 viewers at a time a day. And that was before GameStop, right? So there was like this one period where the stream was doing really well. And then the GameStop thing kind of came along, and then after that, it seemed like YouTube kind of
the fear and greed
like
index, 45 out of
throttled live streams in some way.
The crypto fear and
They changed the algorithm and it didn't show live streams as much, and so then we moved back into the 24 viewers kind of range, and so I don't think that had anything to do with me per se, right? So I think more broadly, when I look at how many viewers are on the stream, I don't think that what I do or say has a huge effect on it. But that's kind of the thing, is if I was like super great at the stream, then what I do would have a strong positive effect on the viewership, right? So I think that the larger kind of thing, if we're like, we wanted to grow the stream, is that I'm just not entertaining or interesting enough to compete with other live streams out there. There was a time when we were like the only game in town. Now there's tons of live streams that have a lot more viewers, and they're doing stocks, and so or they're doing equity indexes, so more people are interested in them because of that. And in terms of like the YouTube algorithm, we can't compete in those spaces. But you know what? I don't care. This is why I say the first rule is that we don't talk about speculator Seth. Why is that? Is that because it's like Fight Club and it's like
to 2%?
The reason that that's the rule is to encourage you to break the rules? Maybe, but that's not the reason why I'm saying it. The reason why I'm saying it is because I like the stream to be underground. Underground versus mainstream. Mainstream comes to you and it shoves it in your face 24/7. That's not us.
At 10:30 a.m. Eastern,
we are. When you start trying to seek it, we'll find you.
On the prior build of 90
underground, right? And that's the way that it works. There's a guy on Reddit. He keeps asking these questions, and I know exactly the answer. And he's like, "Oh, I've been watching your stream too. I didn't know that you had that." Well, yes, you did. Once you start seeking it, though, I find you because it's underground. So you don't have to talk about it, because the people that we need to be here, or that we want to have here, that are really engaged in this stuff, either in the order flow stuff or in the interest rate market stuff, they're going to find it because they're looking for it. And it doesn't need to be shoved in everybody else's face. PayPal, yet they always seem to be showing a candlestick chart. There are some of these live streams out there that I really wonder how they became popular live streams. Like, and I do wonder if there maybe were cheating. Like, how did you get thousands of views and you don't do anything on the stream? Like, nobody talks is just a chart. What? So weird. But I think it would be cool to have a bigger audience. Yeah. So for what we do, I know it's fun. It's fun to interact with a larger audience and everything. I don't know if it would help our trading. That's the thing, That's the most important thing to me is the, are we getting better with the trading? or at least progressing in our knowledge of the market. I haven't been taking very many trades past few months. And I'm kind of moving towards kind of do a momentum strategy. Yeah, most people don't want to learn how to trade. Yeah, when I first came into the markets, one of the things that I saw a lot is like, the institutional traders, they don't want you to make money, and so they're gonna feed you all sorts of BS and misinform you. So you need to be very cautious about what you're learning and being taught, because a lot of it is nonsense. And when I started learning, I took that attitude that it was to be very skeptical about whatever people were teaching me. And, I came across the empirical information, and, because there was empirical data, it was like no big deal. So when I start teaching it, when I start talking about it to people, I would felt like, other people would have the same reaction. It's like, oh, there's empirical data. This kind of solves this conundrum that, like, everybody's saying contradictory things, and how do you know who to trust and what makes sense and everything. But as time has gone on, I've kind of realized that what I was told at the very, very beginning is not accurate. It's not that they don't want you to make money, and so they're intentionally misinforming you, etc., etc., etc. It's that the people aren't interested in the truth. You can like shove it in their face and they just ignore it. There's so many other things that are being put in front of them, and that particular thing just doesn't seem interesting to them. And then if they do happen to bite, they go and they hear it, and it just contradicts what they think they know so much that they just refuse to accept it, and they go somewhere else. And that's why the retail trader is so misinformed. So many more opinions and conversations. Heard the trading. I feel discussions are great, but a lot of people just chat, argue, and simple. Yeah. I think that, 50 was like a really good middle point, though, right? When we started getting above 50, it was kind of like a little crazy, right? So that's why it's like, it would be nice to have viewers back up to 50, but I don't know if I care anymore. Now, the main YouTube channel, I care more about, can we continue to grow the main YouTube channel, because that's where we get our message out. That's continues to do okay. I should make more videos, but I'm kind of coming to a point where I don't care as much about that either. But I don't know if that's because of, that it's just not in line with my goals and things like that. I kind of feel like disconnecting from society at large more and more these days,
At 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, we get
there was a time
a natural gas chain
when I was much younger, and it was like, whatever game is out, I want to go and play that game and get super good at that game, and then find a good place for me in that community, and develop a reputation in that community, and get involved and be a part of that society, whatever it was, right? And now I'm just like so sick of it. It's like never goes anywhere, nothing comes of it. It's I care more about like my family and the people that live close here, and I don't really care to try and contribute, because that nobody cares. You can fully know what's going on, and everybody will ignore it. Platforms are what has caused the rise of fake gurus and unrealistic returns. You know what? I think I'm gonna go. I disagree. I think that without the prop firms, it still would have happened. I think that the GameStop situation and the cryptocurrency situation and just the whole approach, the YouTube and the social media companies and everything else, basically just having algorithms that kind of give these people that are straight up lying about things an advantage. And then on top of that, law enforcement just literally can't keep up. That we would be in the world of the golden age of fraud, no matter what. But that does not mean that the prop firms have had a pretty significant impact on the trading community, and one that I don't think is very positive. Yes, because it is very much so that almost everybody that comes in that's new is looking to do a prop firm. And when I say, nah, I think you just trade your own account and trade more conservatively than that, then that's one of the things that kind of makes them go, oh, okay, I'm not interested in here then. And I'm just kind of like, okay, that's fine. You know, by the way, that reminds me about the whole thing with ads, because I think I turned ads on for a little bit, and I don't even remember how to change it. They've got a lot better options here. I kind of want, well, I'll keep them on so that when you're watching it on replay, it will give you the ads, but been at war with YouTube ads. Yeah, you know what? It kind of pisses me off. Here's why it pisses me off, because I feel like I've always tried to have goodwill towards this stuff. I understand that for the internet work the way that it does, and for it to be as awesome as it has been, you know, it's certainly declined, but you know, there's a period where I thought the internet was the greatest thing in the world. In order for all that to work, there has to be money, and creators, they make money from advertisements, and I've seen how the money that we've made from the YouTube and from affiliate links has improved the stream, and I've put basically almost everything back into the stream and making more content. So, you know, there needs to be ads, and I feel like I've kind of extended this goodwill towards it, and YouTube just keeps abusing it. You know what I mean? That's like, okay, there should be ads, and so then YouTube adds more ads, and they add ads in the middle of the content, and they give you multiple ads per video, and they start giving you ads that are more than just 10 seconds. They start giving you ads that are like up to 10 minutes long, and they start giving you ads that are completely fraudulent services and all of these sorts of things, right? Like, YouTube has only themselves to blame, and now they're going to be just inserting ads into the video stream itself, so that there's like no way possible for you to get away from the ads. Well, okay, true. You do need ads. You do need to make money, but like, this wouldn't be such a problem if you didn't keep, you know, abusing people's trust in you and just pushing it further and further and further. Just go back to the way that it used to be, where you would get 1 or 2 10-second advertisements at the beginning of a video and leave it at that. Stop being so effing greedy. Good grief. I mean, and the other side of it is that I really don't think that okay, there are creators, don't get me wrong, there are creators that make a ton of money off of ads and everything else like that, right? But I actually think that YouTube takes a bigger portion of the pie than they should be. I don't think that content creators really get compensated enough for the work that they do. What if you compare what a small or medium content creator makes off of YouTube And you compare that to what they would make if they were doing things with a traditional production studio or a TV station or something. YouTube is robbing them. Do you think YouTube is trying to make everything as horrible as possible so that people will pay for YouTube Premium? Maybe. YouTube Premium doesn't have enough unique content to justify me ever buying it. They take a huge portion now. Many huge YouTubers have been burnt so bad by YouTube being canned. It's like you don't get paid as it really is. I really feel that social media companies are like taking advantage of slave labor basically. TikTok is the worst offender because you don't make jack squat on TikTok. You don't make jack squat, and they're making all this tons of money off of you. And you want to be popular, you want to be loved, and all of these things. So you get on the hamster wheel and you start making the content, and then they don't promote you at all, right? And they're making they're making all this money off of all of this content that you're creating for free, and you don't get anything. You don't even get the social recognition half the time. Because not everybody that's trying to make content consistently blows up. And I just got tired of it. I will still get these impulses like, I really want to make a TikTok about this, or I really want to stitch this guy's video or whatever. And it's like compulsive and I can't help myself. But by and large, like, I'm just not interested in making TikTok content. I still want to make YouTube content because people do watch them, and I think that they do make a difference, and I can see the difference. It's slow and it's creeping in, and it'll take a long time to take hold, but we are making a difference. And I should probably do better with that. But, like, the motivation, it's hard to make them, right? It's a lot of work, and there's not a whole lot of payoff, and so it's really hard to stay motivated to consistently make videos, right? I bought Gold for Premium, but I use it mostly for music. So, dude, YouTube and music is so weird. Actually, okay, so this is something that really irks me, is that I did everything with podcasts, because all of the music that I listen to is electronic dance music, and pretty much every big DJ has some sort of a mix show. So I would just go on iTunes or on the podcast directory that Apple runs or whatever. You know, I have an application on Android that allows me to search through that, right? And I would just add all of those podcasts. And, you know, I had like a dozen podcasts or so. And so when I was in the car, especially when I was, you know, still had to commute downtown back in 2017 to 2020. So crazy to think back how far back that seems now. You know, I always had music. And it was always new music, the music that was just released that week, sort of a thing, right? And then what happened was Spotify came along, and you make money for streaming things on Spotify, or you make money for people watching things on YouTube. And they all of these DJs removed their podcasts from the podcast directory and made it so that you can only get it on YouTube and Spotify. And I don't really like the way that YouTube's music app works so far, and so I just kind of ignore it. I do have Spotify because we play the music through Spotify here on the stream. That's like free music, but I don't want the ads that Spotify inserts in there, so I pay for the Spotify. And so I do most of the listening through Spotify now, and I've been like converting some of my playlists into Spotify playlists and stuff like that, right? But it doesn't replace the podcast thing, because not everybody has moved their podcasts over to Spotify, and Spotify doesn't have like a feed, you know? Like with the podcasts, I could say, here are the podcasts that I want, and then you like list them all. And so here's all of the podcasts released in the past 2 weeks, and I can see which ones I listened to, and I can just, you know. And so I have a list of to listen to get done, sort of a thing, is the way that I treated it. You know, I would DJ myself, and so like listening to what the other mix shows were doing was kind of, I felt like part of my job, and I had to listen to them, right? Spotify just doesn't do that, and it's not the same thing, and I hate it. Now, I am told something that I'm a little excited for is that Twitch has finally made an agreement with the big music companies so that DJs will be able to stream live mixes on Twitch without getting taken down. So you'll see a lot more live DJs streaming on Twitch. I think that'll be cool. Kind of thought, well, we could do that too, but it'd be a lot of work to mix and everything. So I don't know if I'm going to do that. Okay, well, so remember that about 40 minutes ago, we kind of came down to our cost basis, and we're like, oh, are we going to get a bounce? Well, they did bounce from about 14 to 16, which I don't know if that would have even have been $10. So it looks like I made the right decision to not do anything, but it also did bounce. So I guess that's a win on both counts, I guess. I don't know. It was a bounce, but it wasn't enough of a bounce for me to make money off of. So, hey, that's okay. The dollar has pushed higher, though. That's kind of interesting. Just can't seem to keep her down, can you? We've got like what? Oh, we still got like 15 minutes left. I want to get back into our avoid news algo. I'm like really close. But you know, we haven't had time the past 2 days to do it, but tomorrow I think that we can get into it. So we'll do that. Oh yeah, anyways, I gave that whole long thing about advertisements. The whole point of that was like, I don't feel like I should have advertisements turned on the stream. So I turned that off. I don't know if that affects viewership numbers, but turning it off can't hurt. I don't think that YouTube sends you more viewers because you're showing ads. I had a theory that maybe they would, but it doesn't seem like they do. So. So with all that said, Gary Gensler says he sees Ethereum ETFs.
Seen from sources here, SEC Chair Gensler told
S1 approval sometime in the summer.
Spots ETF likely to be approved by the end of summer.
Oh, I actually beat the news squawk to that. Oh, I shouldn't have the news squawk on. Oh, okay. JP Morgan says the majority of the $16 billion inflow into spot Bitcoin ETFs since launch likely came from existing digital wallets on exchanges rather than new money entering the space. That's interesting. You know, I wouldn't say that the ETFs went terrible, but it definitely didn't jump like the Bitcoin advocates did. And I personally thought that it would jump more than it would. They have a hard time staying above 70K. So very interesting development for the Bitcoin world that the interest is still just not there. And I do very much wonder if they reached the saturation point, like enough people have been burned by it that, you know. Okay, so I guess they did indeed, Tesla did indeed reapprove Elon Musk's compensation package. Okay, so I'm kind of browsing through Reddit, and I am seeing that, like, now people are coming to admitting that Roaring Kitty did sell some of his calls. But now they're saying, well, but he didn't sell everything. At least not yet. Well, that's true. Maybe it may be that he only, because it was only half of them. You kind of think, sold half so that he could exercise the other half. Maybe. From r/millennials. So what has been your midlife crisis? Millennials don't have midlife crises, do we? No, I think that maybe we will, but they're just like later. Like maybe when I'm 45, I'll have a midlife crisis. Oh boy. After the pandemic, I decided to get back into what my actual passion was. Theater acting. Ugh. Make me throw up. I hope you're having fun. I'm sure you probably are. I despise the theater world. That's what my family did growing up, and I ain't putting nobody through that. No thanks. Which is funny because one of my kids wants to do that stuff. No, you don't. No, you don't. Trust me, you don't. Not you. You ain't that girl. I'm 34 and struggling with the idea that it's likely I will never have to. Oh my gosh. Is that a midlife crisis? Don't you have to like actually go out and do something about it though, for it to be a real midlife crisis? I thought that you had to buy a car for it to be a real midlife crisis. Wow, I got cancer at 38 and then again at 39? Ugh. That sucks, dude. I feel bad for you. One of the things that always sticks out to me when I'm reading a thread like this is that I'm 39. So like I'm older than all of these people that have posted ages in this thread so far too. I am an older millennial. Yes, I am. I guess we could consider my my divorce a midlife crisis. That was like earlier 30s, but like, yeah, replaced the wife, got a luxury car. What else did I do? I really, you know, I had to sell it because That was money that we used to buy this house, but sometimes I wish that I didn't do any of that. That I kept that house. I rented out the third room and leveraged that money into more things, and then just pieced out in the pandemic. I probably would be a millionaire. That was my opportunity to be a millionaire, and I passed it up, and I don't think I necessarily needed it. Would have just been, not as nice of a house. Ooh, I don't know. Except for that I really hated where we were living before, so. $38 and my kidneys stopped working, man. I am lucky. Like, I sit and I'm like, my elbow is terrible, my back is terrible, and I wish that I was, because I really want to break new PRs, but I don't have cancer, so knock on wood. Ugh, you know what that reminds me of? Do you guys remember Total Biscuit? Oh, that guy was good. I bet you that if Total Biscuit was still alive today, that he would be making some pretty good and insightful content around all of this woke stuff and like Star Wars and all that sort of thing, He was a good content creator. He died to cancer. Oh, so sad. Every once in a while, you gotta remember Total Biscuit. Oh, here we go. Okay, here's somebody that's older than me. I will turn 43 this year, and I can't stop thinking about buying a sports car. Okay, like which one? Get a new BRZ. I hear that the new Subaru sports car has like the most speeding tickets. It's true. I don't know if it's that great of a car though. Synthesizers, that's funny. We got a few minutes left. Let's just come back to this calendar and look at next week. Retail sales on Tuesday. Juneteenth on Wednesday. Unemployment claims. Flash manufacturing PMI. Well, the week after that. Is the week after that like dead? Oh no, it's not too bad. Not too bad. Okay. So we don't have like a super bad lull this month, but there certainly was a lot of economic data this week, right? I bought a $60,000 truck. I'm only 41. My dad didn't get his penis car until 50. Is that what that is? Is it if you buy a really big truck? Okay. I'm kind of avoiding having to buy a new car. My Acura keeps going. I think that I just keep it until it dies and the kid needs a car and we're like, well, maybe we can give him the Acura. But now I'm thinking, oh, let's just buy a Corolla. Let's buy a really cheap, old, crappy Corolla. We can drive that. And when my car dies, we'll switch. Maybe it'll be a Lexus. Maybe it will be a vehicle that I can take to the ski resort. Maybe it will be a Tacoma. I'm not sure. I think that to get the Tacoma, I would want like a camping trailer. Like if I start going camping, regularly and get a camping trailer, then maybe it would be worth getting the truck or a big truck, what's the bigger one than that? An old Corolla being crappy, dude. Okay, so there's this house, up and over there. We were walking the other day, and they have a Toyota, not the Corolla. What's the other one? I can't even. Why am I having like such a brain fart all of a sudden? Toyota. Let's go to Toyota. Ooh, wait, this is new. This is relevant, pertinent to my interests. They are making a Toyota Crown Signia. I'm all in. That looks like maybe so. It's with a hatchback. That's cool. What's an FX? What's a Corolla FX? I don't get it. Car and Driver says Toyota Corolla FX Edition tries for edgy, doesn't quite get there. The new special edition from Toyota adds a spoiler, new wheels, and special appearance features to stand out while trying to honor the 1987 Corolla FX 16. Okay. No, a Camry. There's this house up, like it's almost a mile away, but they have like an old Camry. I mean like a 1980s Camry, and it looks so cool for some reason. It looks so cool to me. Fortunately, the FX retains the SE grades lethargic 169 horsepower, so it's basically just an SE Corolla, but slightly cooler looking. Okay. Upgraded infotainment system, though. I don't know, man. That Toyota Crown Signia. I may just get that. Put a roof rack on it. That'll get me to the ski resort. And it's not, you know, it's a hatchback, but it's not huge. Because a lot of the hatchbacks that I see, it's like basically becoming an SUV. That's not quite an SUV. Interesting. Interesting. Oh wait, can you build them? Let's see. No, not that. What are the trims? You got different trims? Do we know yet? Okay, they have an XLE and a Limited. Oh, that's weird. So the Limited gives you gray metallic alloy wheels, panoramic roof, 11 speaker JBL premium audio, including subwoofer and amplifier. I want it. Guys, is it, you feel it? This is the car I'm gonna get. When the Acura dies, keep the Acura. I think that the Acura could keep going for a few more years, actually. It's you know, like the AC is kind of going, but I think that the engine will keep going. When it dies, Crown Signia Limited. Used Crown Signia Limited. Okay, well, guys, this has been fun and all, but it's time for me to get going. I will see you tomorrow. We'll do a little bit of programming, chat some more. Maybe I'll bring up a controversial issue again for us to argue about. I honestly, I enjoy arguing about the Palestinian thing because there's so many people that are like so passionately Palestinian, and I kind of find it a little bit fun because I very, very strongly believe that Palestinians are, that terrorism is wrong. So anyways, it's fun to get, what is the word? Animated about something, I guess. Okay. See you tomorrow. Stay excellent.